AJ's Journey, Part 9. This is going to be about relationships, and if you've listened to any of my YouTube on AJ's Journey, Part 1, 2, and beyond, you know that I do these videos to kind of help and see if you can relate how Second Life, those who regularly log into Second Life, how it impacts your real life, how your real life is going to impact your second life. A lot of people come into Second Life looking for someone to love, a relationship, a partner, somebody to hang out with. And that's all well and good. I likewise have done that and still do that. I like a partner. There's all kinds of relationships, but my relationships tend to be traditional. There's a lot of damaged people in Second Life, so it's always good to beware, not share too much information all at one time and related to your real life. It just protects you. What can you expect from a relationship if you want a traditional, regular sort of relationship in Second Life and you're looking for love, maybe? There's some red flags to look for, and I'm going to be focusing on those. Just as in real life, for instance, I've only had one relationship in real life, and it's been running for years and years. It's not been particularly good, and quite frankly, I should have gotten out of it years ago, and I didn't. And I'm still staying. There's always a question people have: why stay? There's a multitude of reasons. They vary from day to day even. Number one, it wasn't always bad. Number two, you question yourself and you think, well, it's bound to get better. This is not it. Number three, you rationalize everybody has bad days. And I'm not perfect, so maybe some of this stuff I'm just blowing out of proportion or imagining. Let me just describe my real life information. You can see how that kind of plays into Second Life. Because if you've had bad relationships in real life, and you come to Second Life, my experience is you kind of gravitate towards the same sort of people. And that's not always good. Often, if you're in real life, you think, oh, I'll go to Second Life and break free. You take yourself and your attitude and the things you're used to with you into Second Life. So it's not too surprising. Some people end up with the same sort of situation in Second Life as they had in real life. So here goes. I was young when I met my real life person. There was red flags. Number one, I didn't know what PTSD was, but I'm pretty sure he was suffering from that early on in our relationship. He had been in the service. The first indication of anything like that, and I didn't know the label of it or anything, is if something backfired or a loud bang. Maybe somebody just slammed a door really hard. He would practically jump across the room. I mean, total overreaction. Sure, we get startled, but this was over and beyond just being startled. Another red flag was temper outbursts over things that normally most people would frankly brush off, but they would become a big deal and just hollering, screaming, totally out of place. I wasn't experienced with such things, and I just rationalized it as, hey, anger issues, they'd pass. It would seem like, well, sometimes it'd pass, within hours. Sometimes it wouldn't pass until a day or two later. I said, well, maybe it does have reason to be really angry. And it wasn't necessarily directed at me at first. Then they're saying inappropriate things. I experienced that with him. We would be in a group situation and he would totally say something just off the wall that kind of is like nails striking over a chalkboard, or being abrasive like sandpaper. You would say, if you were with a group of people, they would kind of, chuckle, try to pass it off. And that would be a little bit strange to me because I would say, why did he say that? Why did it come across that way? And other people are picking up on it a little bit too. For instance, if he didn't get served right away and he figured he waited more than his share. I mean, sometimes you're in lines, for example, and it's going to be an extra 5 or 10 minutes, right? Well, if it was beyond 3 minutes, he would start, clearing his throat or trying to get somebody's attention. Just being a little too much. Then, another red flag would be somebody that's constantly talking about themselves. I call it the I syndrome. I did this and I did that. I've accomplished this and I used to do this and I was relied on to do this in my workplace. Always about me or I in conversations. Granted, I wasn't the most outspoken person, and there was a lot of leeway for them to talk about themselves. Most people will talk about other things, though. What's going on in the world, or they'll ask you questions about yourself. Well, what do you like? What do you do in your spare time? Something along those lines. Another red flag is when someone has a problem with their family. Now, none of these individual items are relationship killers, so to speak, but if they're having problems with their family and the family situation is chaotic, that is a little bit of a red flag, especially when you add it with other things. Somebody that has issues in school and they talk about it. The teacher just didn't appreciate me, or I dropped out because they don't know what they're talking about, or I'm just too good for that class. They want too much of me, whatever the excuse is, but they're constantly having issues with college or grades, and yet they're there. Money issues is another red flag. Now, there are girls that seek sugar daddies. I don't know how they accomplish it, quite frankly, because I've always had to earn my own way, and my mindset is geared that way. Some have, but, there seem to be gravitate towards men that have money issues. If you can't pay your own way, I don't look for somebody that's rich. But if they're really lacking and in debt and always in trouble financially, I mean, if you watch Judge Judy, you always see these women that are suing some guy that they moved in and they've loaned, $3,000 or $4,000 to them, maybe more. And they're there in court trying to get that money back, trying to establish, hey, that was a loan. I said, well, you were in a relationship with the guy. And the guy's saying, it was a gift, those sorts of issues. They're not paying their own bills. Yeah, that would be a red flag. Another red flag is when there's struggles, are there demeaning words and comments they're saying to you? And contrary labels. By that, I mean, one day they're telling you how sweet and awesome you are, and maybe within an hour or two later, they're saying, well, you just think you know everything. You just think you're so smart. You just think you're all that and then some. Why are you attacking me? And hey, a little while ago you were bragging about me how sweet I am. What does that do to a person? You know what it did to me? You don't trust labels. You don't trust when they say, I love you. That doesn't mean a whole lot because the next day or the next hour, well, they are totally redefining. If that's love, you don't really want to have anything to do with it. You sort of close down to meanings. They don't mean that much when somebody says they love you or they care about you. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop and them to be criticizing you. You're just programmed that way after a while. So that's some of the red flags. What does that have to do with Second Life? Well, ladies, you probably experienced men that are like that in Second Life. They may have moods, they may accuse you of things that you're not even doing. They may be saying inappropriate things. I had one person, for example, had this habit of wanting to call me a bitch and trying to tell me that was an endearing thing that motorcycle people do. And the connotation to me was not an endearing thought. And then he was wanting me to do things, and he called women cheats and different things. I says, and if I do what you're trying to get me to do, you're going to be calling me the same thing you're calling other women. You know, it didn't make sense. If you're trying to entrap somebody to be a tramp, and then they do it to please you, then you could say, aha, I knew you were a tramp. What kind of person does that? So you have to watch out for these things in SL. They do bleed over. I mean, if you haven't had a pristine relationship situation in real life, don't think you're going to pop into Second Life and find your Prince Charming. My experience is there's more screwed up people in Second Life because they're coming here to try to escape their real life. And guess why they're trying to escape their real life? Their real life kind of sucks. And if their real life kind of sucks, aren't they going to carry that into SL? Anyway, something to think about. Just trying to get you to be cautious. Analyze your own picks and your situations. Think about it when relationships in Second Life start having red flags. Chances are it's not going to get a whole lot better. Just beware of those things. One red flag might be nothing. It might just be, your antenna is going up a little bit too soon or you're too sensitive. But I would say if you've got 3 or 4 of those red flags going on, you've got a problem, a real problem. So think about who you're tying into and associating with and trying to get close to. Don't bring them into your real life too soon. All right, ladies, peace out. And men, you can just reverse this. I know it's not all women running into men. Sometimes men are doing the very same thing and running into women that they don't really want to run into in Second Life. So it works both ways. Chill out and have a good one, everyone.